Good morning, David. I'd like to ask you to introduce yourself to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary. David Maina. I am a consultant. I'm doing advisory work in the livestock and feed sector. My focus largely has been on fodder, on the focus of financing, investments, and contracting on a wider scope of the continent level, but more particularly in 6 countries. Kenya, Uganda, Somalia, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, and Cameroon.
Yeah.
Basically, at least a country in every region of Africa.
Yeah.
Yes, currently I'm on an assignment with the African Union, Inter-African Bureau for Animal Resources, with a project called Resilient African Feed and Fodder Systems. So that's where I'm doing my consultancy work as feed and fodder business development expert.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Tell us more about RAFS,
Yes.
the Resilient African Fodder Initiative, and how far you have come,
Yes.
and what you have realized in terms of your results.
So this is an AU-IBAR project. Of course, AU-IBAR has a mandate for livestock. It's the agency, we can say the specialized agency for the African Union Commission that is specialized for livestock resources mandate. So among the many other livestock work that they are doing is, this is really the first project that is focusing on feed. Otherwise, there are many other livestock projects going on, from fisheries, going to, small ruminants, animal health, animal production, quite a wide range of animal livestock resources in general. But RAF's project was actually designed more as an emergency project. So it's quite short, an emergency project of 3 years, which came from the crisis. We call it the triple crisis, because when COVID was happening, drought was also happening, and the crisis in Middle East, in Russia, Ukraine was happening. Of course, even now we have crisis. So that's where it came from. Then it was attempting to address the negative impact on the feed and fodder sector that emerged out of the triple crisis. So this project has been going on. I would say that we are now on the final leg. In fact, we are on the last 6 months plus an extension of about 7 months or so. And what we have been able to do so far is to mainstream coordination of the sector, but also it's good to say that this is not the only resort area in RAFS. We are talking about business development in feed and fodder, but there's also data and ecosystems. There's also inventory and feed balancing, the issue of early warning systems. There's also policy. So it's a lot wider than our agenda for today, which is focusing on feed and fodder business development and the financing models for the feed and fodder sector. So I think that would be able to give you a brief on what RAFS is. The Resilient African Feed and Fodder Systems is basically looking at moving from a feed and fodder sector in Africa that is always destabilized by climatic or other forms of shocks, to a sector that is going to be stable and progressive going forward.
And talking about the event today marks the first fodder contracting and investment forum. What is it about?
So the Kenya's first fodder contracting and investment action is a catalytic event for where the sector can come together and be able to focus on very specific issues on fodder. And for today, it's about financing, contracting, and investments in fodder. But I also need to say that this is actually an event that is hosted by Kenya Feed and Fodder Alliance. The Kenya Feed and Fodder Alliance is a multi-stakeholder platform for Kenya. In every other country, the first entry was to also seek a coordination mechanism for the sector. And the coordination mechanism was the MSP. So the MSP for Kenya, or the multi-stakeholder platform for that matter, is the Kenya Feed and Fodder Alliance. So they started by making their own sector profile, like a pitch. This is how the sector looks like. This is how valuable it is. This is how much it is worth. This is the typology of our sector. Then from there, they also went into, can we also create an investment momentum in Kenya? Now, the event that is supposed to create that momentum is KEFSIA, the Kenya's first fodder contracting and investment action. And when I listen to KEFA, what they are proposing to the government today and to the stakeholders is that this can be an annual activity for stock taking about where are we on fodder. We set out to address fodder gaps in Kenya. Who is doing what? Where are we? Are we converging? Do we have a shared vision? So KEFSIA looks like it's going to be an annual event hosted by KEFA.
You have certainly a great passion for Fodder. Where are we currently with Fodder? And what is central in today's event?
Yeah, I think that we have been able to. The challenge is huge, Mary. I would say the challenge is huge because I do not think that there's any country that can say they have overcome any possibilities of negative impact if they were to be faced with a crisis of the same magnitude that has come through drought or international conflict or epidemic like COVID. Certainly, there will be shocks. But what we're looking at is to be able to support the sector in a way that it can be better prepared, and so that the size of negative impact is going to be much less than what was there. So what has been achieved so far, there's a lot of progress in terms of articulation. When you go to these countries, you'll find that people are now mentioning feed and fodder. Previously, fodder was actually subsumed under feed, or generally feed and fodder subsumed under livestock. So when you have a dialogue on livestock, people think that feed doesn't have to be mentioned. It's already assumed to be part of it. But now we are bringing fodder out of that to be seen as a sector that can stand on its own, a sector that deserves attention on investment, a sector where a bank can be able to create financing products around it, and which can be articulated properly. When you go to media and you're coming to discuss fodder, they don't ask you about livestock because it should be seen as a sector on its own. And the ultimate is to ensure that it gets to a level where it is an economic sector and very strategically positioned for food security. I don't think that this emergency product may have done that. But what we have done in the project is that it has tested certain models. And I think going forward, any phase of a project after this, we'll be able to continue with what has worked. It has also documented through an assessment in all these countries about how does the sector look like, how much is it worth, and putting some visuals and some publicity around it so that people understand what is this sector about and how does it look like, what are its needs. For us, that's a big achievement. Because it creates a very good foundation on anybody who is working on the sector to see what can they focus on. So that we don't have efforts all over and we lack some significant progress on the sector that has been hit very hard across the years.
So what would you be appealing for to maintain the momentum and to at least sustain the results that you have realized?
Today is really the Kenya Day. I expect that other countries will also have a similar event in their respective countries. In fact, this event is live streamed so that all the 6 countries can be able to watch. Not so that they do exactly the same, but they will have their own style of achieving the same objective. The emphasis for today is for financing. Look here. The conventional financing landscape is struggling to fund fodder. Generally, agri is less funded because the interest rates basically the mode of financing does not favor the sectors that have a high rating for risk. So what we are looking at today, can we also champion for supply chain financing? And this is what it means. That we look at the supply chain of fodder livestock. If you follow it, you see that at some point, fodder now goes to livestock and we end up with meat on the plate. That's how the supply chain looks like. Now we look at the strongest node on that supply chain that can create a resource for fodder production. Instead of starting by going to the bank or going to investors, where the rating for risk is very high, we explore first internal financing and create a resource around it. And this has been tested on cooperatives, which is going to be announced later by one of the cooperatives, and also for the ASAL, very importantly. For Kenya, nobody will take you seriously if you are saying that you're addressing a fodder issue without mentioning what is happening in the ASAL. So we have the ASAL here, the arid semi-arid lands, we have the cooperatives, we have feedlot owners, we have fodder entrepreneurs, which is a very unique part for Kenya, and we also have, let's say we have off-takers of fodder. Now, all these come together to say, now that we haven't had significant financing on fodder, how do we explore internal mechanisms of first financing the supply chain from within so that we can bring fodder to a level where it is investable and bankable?
Thank you.
That's the for today.
Thank you, David, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you very
endeavor.
much for having me, and I hope that going forward we have a great day and that we have a lot of information going out of to the other countries so that they can be able to do their style of this thing. Thank you so much for the time.
Karibu.